go. All right. Uh-oh. Oh, Lisa Herman, right? Yeah. Dude, Kelly, well, come on, man. I'm trying not to drop a F-bomb on live stream, bro. We I'm trying, man. This is like the new civilized Nate. Okay. I'll give it like just a minute or two in case there's some people that are still waiting to start. Um, I usually have the wines up here. I will say we're gonna taste them we're gonna taste the Remy Fabras Cotes du Rhone first. No, I'm trying to get this right. Then we're gonna taste the Notre Dame de Pape Gigondas. I'm not really gonna become civilized. I mean, like, I condone indoor plumbing and do all that kind of stuff, and I'm relatively hygienic for a 40-year-old male. But I mean, outside of that, um, then the Chateauneuf du Pape's gonna be third. Okay. All right, we've given it a couple minutes. I may have my assistant Eric fetch me some water at some point today. Okay, there's a lot of people hanging out. All right, folks. I am going to get this started. So I'm Nate Norfolk, the wine and spirits director here at Ray's. I'm a certified sommelier. I've been here for 5 years. I've done a class of this nature a few times in the past. And the topic today is the red wines of the southern Rhone Valley in France. And I qualify that with the southern because we're gonna taste three Grenache based wines here. And hopefully everybody's got these ready to go and open. Do that. Pour them out. We're gonna do the Remy Fabras, just the regular Côtes du Rhone, and then we will do then after that we're gonna drink the Notre Dame de Pape Gigondas, and third and last we will drink the La Bastide Saint Dominique Chateauneuf du Pape. I do suggest that if possible, whenever we do this, pour out three glasses so you can kind of compare and contrast the wines with one another. I'll probably briefly touch upon the kind of the color and aromatic qualities of each of the wines. That having those three glasses in front of you, and it doesn't even have to be, they don't even have to be wine glasses. I mean, like whatever, jelly jars, little, old fashioned cups or coffee mugs or whatever. But like being able to kind of go back and forth between the three wines, I think is pretty fun. I think in this sense, we're dealing with wines that are really, they're blended red wines, but they're similar blends to one another. And really the main point of differentiation here is where they are located in this valley, which is really a large alluvial plain that abuts a mountain range to the east, and it forms a river delta that then has a swamp area and kind of brackish water on the south. All right, I'll answer folks if anybody's new to the streaming here. If you're just logged into your own YouTube account, you can chat, and I'll answer the questions as we go along. Chris is saying you're not just barreling through all of them tonight. No, we're not going to just barrel through all of them. We're not barbarians here. This is trying to be civilized. This is sometimes tough without an audience because Eric doesn't laugh at my jokes, and I don't know how you all are doing out there. You know, maybe I introduce a laugh track if this goes on for months and months more. So I've got my PowerPoint here, and we'll notice this is Ray's Rock and Rhones, Ray's Rock and Red Rhones, exploring the red wines of France's Rhone Valley. All right, wonderful. All right, we're gonna hopefully all you out there in TV land, in YouTube live land, are gonna see. So really, what we're this is solely wines. Concern yourself with wines in this southeastern part of France, and this is if you see in the inset map here, there's really two sections of it. And this is the part in orange at the top. And then here's the bigger one. This is where we're located in France, in the southwest corner. When we look at this at the more the inset map, we've got this kind of almost roundish shape. It's like an exclamation point with a really skinny top, right? But here's the bottom, which is what we call the Southern Rhone. The Southern Rhone is about 95% of the volume of wine is created in this southern area, and the northern part, which is really hugs along the sides of the Rhone River, both on the east and west. This only produces about 5% of the wines here, and this northern part is dominated by Syrah-based appellations, regions that, that's the French term for a wine region is an appellation. And really, the wines of the Northern Rhone tend to be very long-lived, and they're Syrah-based, and they're rather expensive. And we, as wine professionals, we almost treat them as a subset of the more dominant, plentiful, and typically less expensive wines of the Southern Rhone. Both the climate and topography of these areas are relatively different from each other. The Northern Rhone here is dominated by very steep slopes and mostly granite-based soils here, whereas the Southern Rhone, like I mentioned earlier, is what we would call, it's an alluvial plain. So we have sand and clay-based soils, but we also get to things called galets and cailloux, and then there are, as we go into the eastern part here, we start to abut a mountain range which is called the Dentelles de Montmirail. Oof, that's a mouthful, huh? All right. So, and here's a map where we get a little bit deeper into this. So what we're going to concern ourselves with is this is the larger area here, okay, of the Southern Rhone. This really gets deep into it, and the different regions, or appellations as they're known in France. And you'll see the whole thing is roughly about 65 to 80 kilometers across at its widest. So it's less than 50 miles top to bottom, north to south. Okay. Anne and Eric Becker. What's missing is the background buzzing noise of a room full of buzz people trying to whisper during the class when they actually are shouting. Fair assessment. Fair. Totally, it is missing. Yeah, I know. Nonetheless, here we are. We've got all the regions, the different appellations of the Côtes du Rhône. Hopefully everybody can kind of see this map pretty well. I never know. I'm assuming you're looking at these on pretty big screens. But we're going to concern ourselves with a wine that comes from the broader area here. Then that'll be the first wine. And why don't, everybody just take this and sip on it. I'll talk about it in just a minute, but let's, we're here for libations and entertainment, I guess. Yeah. And remember, these are all Grenache-based blended red wines. So the first wine is called Remy Febras Côtes du Rhône, and it's sourced from all these areas. I'm going to touch a little bit more on the geography and kind of topography of this area. if folks notice at the very kind of the top of this, there's one town that's noted. It's called Montlemar, and really this is kind of Montlemar is like the dividing line where wine made from grapes sourced north of here are then are permissible to be a higher Syrah content when you just make regular Cotes du Rhone. It's a little bit of a geeky kind of thing that's going on. What do you mean sourced from all of these areas? Okay, here, I'm going to get into that, man. There's a what? Oh, because I get it, because it's you and Lisa going back and forth. I mean, when we have a wine that's maybe just called a Cotes du Rhone, as this Remy Febras wine is, it just comes from, it's sourced from, it could come from anywhere within the region, like the whole region. So think about the Cotes du Rhone, it would be like, let's say like think of the Cotes du Rhone is to France as Wisconsin is to the United States, right? It would be like if I said a wine came from Wisconsin. It could come anywhere from within Wisconsin. So when we have a wine that's labeled just a Cotes du Rhone, like we see here, this says AOP Cotes du Rhone red, right? And I'll get right into this and we'll start tasting it. I'll go back a little bit. So this is the main grape varieties of this wine are Grenache, Syrah, and people love to say this one is Mourvedre, right? But it's really, in French, we would say Mourvèdre. Mourvèdre. I can't hear you out there with practice. Mourvèdre. It's tough. I didn't realize I was sounding like a complete rube for, 10 plus years until an actual French person was like, Americans all say Mourvèdre, but it's Mourvèdre. So there we go. I hope that answered your question, Kelly. So what we're dealing with, the first wine is this Remy Febras. And this is basic Cotes du Rhone. It is, I think of this region as probably producing some of the best value red wines in France, if not the world. It's really, there is a lot of wine made here, and then to the corresponding area to the west, which is called the Languedoc and Roussillon. But really, the Cotes du Rhone area here is, outside of Bordeaux makes more wine than them, but next to Bordeaux, the Rhone is the greatest volume of wine overall made in France. So I'm going to do a little review of the main grape varieties, right? We'll talk about the three main grape varieties here, because this first wine is a blend of all three of these, as are the next two. So really what we're dealing with are blends of Grenache, Syrah, and Mourvèdre. And then I'll kind of get into some of what the minor grape varieties are for some of the other regions. But this wine is solely Syrah, Grenache, Syrah, and Mourvèdre. The main grape variety here is Grenache, which is an ancient grape variety. And when we look at this, some of the reasons this is such a popular wine, both in the last time I looked, this was I believe the most widely planted red grape variety in France. Merlot is probably close to there too, but Grenache is incredibly abundant in both southern France and northern Spain, and nobody's sure what exactly its parentage is as a grape variety. It's a very old vinifera variety. Folks think it's been cultivated for at least 1,000 years as it is. It buds early, meaning like when we're growing this, you can't grow it in some place that's too cold because if we do, it's going to be susceptible to frost. So we gotta be in a place where it's relatively warm in the springtime, and it ripens relatively late too. So once again, we gotta have a place that's relatively warm, um, and it doesn't need water. I mean, it can thrive in places that are arid. Um, Wood disease resistant, meaning like aphids and all kinds of other horrible bugs that get into the roots of vines are Grenache is not susceptible to them. It is one thing that really works against Grenache though in general is it's prone to oxidation. So you're going to notice when these are the type of wines like Grenache based wines here, when we open them up and people always make jokes about this in the classes. This is not the type of thing that it's not going to hang around or be great 3 days down the road, because Grenache has a tendency to start to get a little, for lack of a term, oxidized. It gets kind of vinegary after like 2-3 days, most of the time. There's exceptions to that, and it's one of the reasons Mourvèdre and Syrah are blended with it because they are less prone to oxidation. This is a fun little wine, and tonight I will say this to everybody that's out there. Eric and I, if you did this last week, we put all the wines on sale on the website. So if you want to buy them, if there's anything you want to buy, this Cotes du Rhone is going to be $8.99. The Gigondas is $18.99, and then the Chateauneuf du Pape is $29.99. And I've got them set up on the website. But I'm not going to let you pick them up until Wednesday, okay? For folks out there, please, if you buy them through the website, don't put a pickup date until Wednesday or later, all right? And there'll be a little tag on the website that will tell you that these are pre-arrival. This way I can get everybody their wine and I can do it, and if we sell more than I have in-house, I can still get it here and make sure everybody gets their wine without any snafu. Hopefully everybody picked that up. I'll try to write some of that in the chat too. I'm always looking for Cotes du Rhone wines that are of this kind of price point. So we talked about Grenache, right? And you can grow Grenache in tons and tons of different soil types: clay, sand, silt, loam, rocky soils, volcanic soils. It works really well. No worries, it'll be gone before 3 days. Bradley Wells, I knew somebody was going to hit that. It's always the joke. I drink all the wine. That's the joke. Nice for the money. We have this on sale for $9. It's $10 normally. I mean, how much cheaper can I make it be, right? Sorry, wearing a mask all day just dries a guy out, man. Now we talk about Syrah, and people are usually really familiar with Syrah, which is also known as Shiraz in other parts of the world. Syrah usually gets riper before Grenache does, and we talk about tight clusters here, meaning like the berries themselves are really close together, which can create problems when it's in some place that's grown someplace that's really really wet, because it gets mold problems. So it's typically done in relatively dry places too. I'm no worries to death. Thanks. Haha. Amazing quality for the price. Yeah. Once again. And Syrah's a weed, man. It'll grow. You'll get a lot of Syrah in places where it will grow. It will be very abundant. Syrah is related. It's one of the Pinot Noir is one of the offsprings of Syrah, and it's also closely related to Viognier. And a lot of times Syrah is grown contiguously with Viognier, especially in the northern Rhone. These are kind of obscure grapes that Syrah comes from. Doriza, and sometimes we say in a grape called Mondouse Blanche, which aren't really, we don't see them really on their own in any way, shape, or form anymore. Mondouse Blanche, maybe in Jura or like parts of eastern France / like western Switzerland. And then we're saying rotundone. This is an interesting word here. And we're going to pick this up in Rotundum is the aromatic quality that we associate with black pepper. Okay, and specifically black pepper, like white pepper and like pink peppercorns don't have this. It's the smell of black pepper, and it's naturally in Syrah grapes, regardless of where they're from. They have the rotundone. Totally interesting. A lot of times people will pick that peppery quality up in Rhone wines, kind of across the board. I mean, when I get it and I'm blind tasting a wine, it immediately makes me think that there is Syrah in the wine, you know. So we're drinking the Remy Fabras. I'm also we talked about Mourvèdre, which is kind of the third little, the third friend here. Mourvèdre needs to be grown in places that are warm. It doesn't work. You're not going to get Mourvèdre from like, Oregon, like the Willamette Valley in Oregon. Oh, the camera's doing something funny. Yeah. I think it's still going. Mourvèdre's not going to come. We're not going to get it from upstate New York. We got to grow it in places that are warm, right? And it doesn't want to be in any place that's too wet, because the grapes will kind of burst and shatter if they take up too much water. But it's thick skinned, so it makes really super super dark wines. I can touch on this in some other class, but we'll drink more Mourvèdre based wines. In Spain, Mourvèdre is also known as Monestral. And we carry a ton of wines from throughout the southern part of Spain that are made from this Monestral grape, which are pretty heavy. And Mourvèdre can make really, really strong wines. All right, we talked about this, the Côtes du Rhône, the basic area, the larger area. Look, this is really interesting. 89% of the wine here is red wine. 89% of the wine made in that area is red wine. Think about that. Another 7% is rosé, and a tiny, tiny 4% is white. So only, 1 out of every 25 bottles made here is white wine. Oh, here, Kelly Wall asking me, so do you know where exactly the first wine is from? What part of the Southern Rhone? My man, I love you, bro, but this is a $9 wine, dude. Those guys, it's like asking where the chicken in your McNuggets come from, man. We're just lucky we know that it comes from the Southern Rhone. Fair, good question, and we're gonna elaborate on that, but that's where we are with this. So this is the important part. Once we make wine south of that village called Montlemar down in the Cotes du Rhone, the wines have to be at least 40% made from Grenache. Yep. And then minimally 70% of the total has to be Grenache, Syrah, and Mourvèdre. Okay, great. And then I can keep going. Are you sure of that at McWine? Question mark. No, just asking. So are you sure of that at the money? Yeah, I'm sure. Best McWine ever, somebody says. We talked about this. Yeah, usually if a winery is sourcing from someplace that's a more within this Southern Rhone appellation, the larger region, and they're sourcing from a great place, they usually want to highlight that in some way, shape, or form. And Remy Fabras, this company, is a larger producer here, and they call this Terre de Mistral. Is their little? You'll see everybody on their label. Really little down here, it says Terre de Mistral, like land of the Mistral. Like the Mistral is a strong wind that really has a huge influence over the southern Rhone, and typically that this wind get to the point like it can damage vines. That's how powerful this is. Like it's not weird for it to be 60, 70 miles an hour. Thus, a lot of these the grape varieties that are there are somewhat wind resistant and have to do with them being thick skinned, um, and the Mistral, sometimes as you get closer to this mountain range, the Dentelles, the stronger it is, and the cooler it can sometimes be, because of that. Hope that answers you. I mean, folks kind of use these terms pretty. The Mistral thing is something that's referenced a lot in southern France, in the names of things and wines. Okay. Any questions about that before we get deep into this? I mean, this is an unoaked wine. Once again, like we're talking no wood. It goes through malolactic fermentation, which is something almost every red wine you've ever had does that. That's a common thing. Wow. Funny thing, this is kind of the oldest wine of the group because we're drinking 2018 we're drinking 2018 Gigondas and Chateauneuf. This is from 2017. Yeah, man, I get like a pretty like classic kind of raspberry meets a kind of thyme and like a bay leaf thing going on with it. It's a slightly herbaceous, but like not like pungent herbs, more like sweeter kind of herbs. I know how gross this is probably to hear somebody like twirling wine in their mouth close to the mic. I can't help myself though. Pretty great wine for like $9, right? What I love about Côtes du Rhone wines like this is that they're not necessarily intense. They have some complexity to them. They're both have pretty explicit fruit flavors. To me, this leans more on the has red fruit character, or I get like kind of a wild strawberry, wild raspberry, maybe leaning a little on the rhubarb side of things too. I get bay leaf on this too. I get a touch of kind of a fennel. So then some folks are asking, so these Southern Rhone wines do not age well. I do think some of them age well. And I definitely think Chateauneuf du Pape and Gigondas wines can age well. You got to be a little more careful with them than things like Cabernet or Nebbiolo. They kind of age in a similar way, like that Pinot Noir does. The Grenache based wines though can oxidize, and older wines have a tendency to do that if they are. I do suggest, if you do like collecting and aging these wines, even really good stuff I would probably dip into after about 10 years to just see where it's at, if you should keep putting it down. Now, interestingly, there are some producers, as we get into Chateauneuf du Pape, hopefully I'll remember to talk about it, because there are some producers that make almost all, a famous producer called Beaucastel, their flagship Chateauneuf du Pape is mostly Mourvèdre, and it is really, really, it's really, really sturdy and known for its longevity because it's Mourvèdre and not Grenache, and the Mourvèdre tends to be able to age for a very, very, very long time. Chris says, I've used this to make beef bourguignon before. It's great for less than $10. I recommend this very wine, this Remy Febras Côtes du Rhone, to people to make beef bourguignon like all the time. Totally. I mean, this is hands down, this is probably the best value French red wine we have in our store right now. I really, really go out of my way to look for Côtes du Rhone at this price point that just doesn't taste thin and insipid or really green or anything. And this has got a great combination a fruit. It's moderately complex, and it's classic. Yummy. And you'll notice this little Grenache-based wines really will open up pretty quickly because they are subject to oxidation. So they tend to like immediately get going with just a little bit of air. All right, this is a pretty cool picture. So I'm gonna I won't go back to the main map. Well, yeah, I will go back to the main map. Here we go. Okay, so now what we're looking at is wine from this area right here. Oh shit. Is the kind of light green spot on the map where I'm going over and over again with the carrot, right? This is Gigondas. So we get into its own separate appellation here, and this is the mountain range called the Dentelles de Montmirail, and dentile like dental, like tooth, because you can see this is this incredibly like jagged outcropping here, and this is actually from Notre-Dame de Pape. This is the first thing you see on their website is this picture, because these are their vineyards, which are right against this mountain, these mountains, which definitely become kind of a block that Mistral wind and really hollow this area out, and it gets the brunt of the wind. So much so that a lot of the trees actually lean south because the wind is coming from north here and pushing them in that area. Whoa. I think we're having an issue with the camera. Right, kid? That's okay. Everybody gets to hear me. Ah, yes. And then somebody's recommending Tablas Creek for the U.S. version of Beaucastel. Yeah, I mentioned the Beaucastel wines. Wow. Dawn, you are for the win. You're smart. Yeah. Oh. Sorry. We're having an issue with the camera here. I'm just going to keep going, though. So we're drinking the Gigondas, right? So I'll show you the label of that guy. Did I do this? Oh, I kind of suck. Hold on. No. Oh, I thought I did the Gigondas. All right. Well, you guys can hear me. So this is, remember, we're having the Gigondas. And sorry, I didn't put the text sheet in here too. Oh, there he is. He's coming back. He's coming back with it. I want everybody to know as we do this. I thought I put the Notre-Dame de Pape text sheet in this, but I didn't. Nonetheless, this wine is predominantly Grenache. And here we go. Ta-da. Dun, 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 dun. So, sorry, I can cheat here. It's 80% Grenache, 10 Syrah, and 10 Mourvèdre, right? This is not an oaked wine, meaning like this is not oak aged. They do ferment about 20% of this wine with the stems, and they're not very forward about what part of the blend they do with the stems. It's probably the Syrah and the Mourvèdre, which kind of are classic varieties to ferment with stems. That being said, this is a super, super, super old estate. And the wines here tend to get riper later. And even though they're affected by that wind, they tend to be high in alcohol, really pretty strong, and have very, very, very intense aromatics. So this area, Gigondas, was one of the first. It was in the Côtes du Rhône. It was granted its own appellation in 1971, Prior to that, it was just part of the broader. They just labeled the wines Cotes du Rhone. But after the kind of post World War II, people started to really notice. Oh my gosh, these wines have really, really have their own character. They're richer. They have great fruit to them. Um, and a little bit in a nutshell about the larger Rhone area, we have to think that like this is the oldest wine region in France. Okay, the Greeks were here in the 8th century BC. So we're dealing with a wine region that has almost 3,000 years of history, and the Greeks were trading amphora-based wine made in amphora clay vessels in Marseille 2,800 years ago, at least, right? This area, Gigondas, there's proof of Roman vineyards here from the 1st century BC. So we know folks have been making wine in Gigondas minimally for 2,100 years. Wow. And it has clay soils, which have a tendency to retain water. So we'll notice that these wines aren't quite as rich as Chateauneuf du Pape. That's one thing that separates these from Chateauneuf du Pape. But Gigondas wines are really, really perfumed. Yeah, Lisa says she gets the fennel. I get it too. I love the spice on this. Gigondas wines sometimes they can be almost hard. Man, this is and hard meaning like there can be tannic and really raw and kind of leathery, but they all have this almost like sometimes it reminds me of Chambord, like a black raspberry liqueur character to them. They definitely have a darker fruit than most just basic Côtes du Rhône wines, and the spicy character comes through to them. I thought that this wine is like one of the kind of best value Rhone wines that we have in the store too. Not to dig into the politics of everything, but even with the tariff that's going on, we get this through a gentleman who's he's actually a Dutch expat who lives in Wauwatosa, and he imports this himself. So we get to cut out two of the middlemen to get this wine. Hence it being, at sub $20, I'd hold this up to globally anything else that's out there. In some vintages, this has gotten incredible press. 92, 93 points from the Wine Advocate. Once again, I probably mentioned this is a very, very, very old estate. This estate, Notre Dame de Palier, has been making wine since the 10th century, so since the 900s. Really, really extreme value here. Yeah. I get like a touch of kind of a Earl Grey tea character to it too. Like it has like a black tea kind of bergamot thing happening. It's funny, it's earthy, but in French, and I should have wrote this down somewhere. There's a word that's called garrigue. I'll write it in here. Hold on. Garrigue. Garrigue is garrigue is the scrub brush and the herbs that grow in southern France, and those flavors tend to manifest themselves in the wine, and they're they're like kind of thyme, thyme, rosemary. They have a I get bay leaf on these a lot. They're woodsy. They have a woodsy herbal character, not like a green character, but like a woodsy herbal character to them. Really, really good. I've got to say, I like this with a traditional Southern French dish is cassoulet, which is like a bean stew that has traditionally like cuts of pork or sausage in them. You know, you can make vegetarian versions of this. This is a great wine to serve with that. But I find like Gigondas that has this kind of ripeness to it is pretty good with mild cheeses. I wouldn't go with anything like super, super strong tasting. You know, you can pair it with, you know, pastas and hold up to a marinara sauce. Of course, like anything grilled works with these wines. And I'm talking like anything grilled. You could do like grilled tempeh or tofu or something. Like these wines really work nice with foods that have a slightly smoky quality. And also that Syrah character, that rotondone character that gives it the black pepper. Man, just having food, pairing these wines with foods that also have a woodsy spice character, whether it be like rosemary or hence like lamb with rosemary is amazing with wines from southern France. But you know, the black pepper, steak au poivre, venison, you know, all these things, game meats too. Wow. And here's the crazy thing. None of these three wines have any new oak to them at all. Like zero zip, nothing, no oak. Mm. Um, where do I want to go? We talked about the Phoenicians. Well, no, not the Phoenicians, sorry. We talked about the Greeks, talked about the Romans, super, super old winemaking region. Um, there's a ton of of Roman ruins here, including the Romans made the Ponte Gard here, which is an aqueduct. Um, and then that's actually in closer to Nîmes, but also Avignon is an ancient walled city too. Um, is 12.5% alcohol low for a red wine? Which of these is 12.5% alcohol? Oop. Which of these is 12.5% alcohol? These are all. This guy's like 14 and some change, isn't it? Yeah, this is like 14 and oh, this is 15. Yeah. These wines get up to that huge. Somebody's getting this from the notes. Okay. Minimum potential alcohol. I see. We were talking about the minimum potential alcohol. Okay. Oh man, you're all gonna make me just talk about the super super details. Okay, in France, every appellation or wine region has this is what's different about these guys and like they're the quality like the kind of the regional sense of quality here, okay? Every wine region in France has a minimum potential alcohol percentage. The Southern Rhone actually has the highest one. Across the board, most of the appellations are 12.5%. That's relatively low nowadays. They do this because they set the minimum potential alcohol because it took another picture of me, bro. They set the minimum alcohol potential so somebody doesn't make really shitty, dilute, underripe wine. Okay, it forces everybody to at least get the grapes like ripe enough that the wine isn't going to be dilute, green, rough, and rustic. It's a built-in it's a built-in quality assurance here. And you get in a lot of trouble if you were caught working doing something outside of the rules of the appellation. I hope that answered your question, Stacy. Good question. That's fair because that was in the notes because it was the minimum alcohol. All right. Then we're gonna. Oh nope, I gotta go. Oh, is it because Eric? Did I do something? Because did I hit something over here? Is that what I did? No, I'm good. Okay. I wonder if I just scared me. All right. Okay, so. Oh, you're welcome, Stacy. Yeah, good. Actually, awesome question. Sorry, I didn't catch it in the thing. And did I? Before we move on, yeah, and also look at this. Check this out, guys. Gigondas, 99%. This is a red wine and rosé only appellation. You can't make white wine and call it Gigondas. It would just be Côtes du Rhone Blanc. If we were to make a white wine in Gigondas, we'd have to call it Côtes du Rhone. We can't call Gigondas as white wine and rosé. Okay, and like I've never seen rosé Gigondas ever in my life. No, I haven't. So it's it's all red wine here. Okay. I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit just so we know what we're doing now. We're gonna get into the La Bastide Saint-Dominique. Okay. Wow. This is it's kind of has a chalky thing going on in the nose to me. I get a little more of I get the same garrigy thing, right? Like we get the herbs. It's kind of more of a rosemary thing happening. It's definitely, there's like a dustiness to it, and I mean that in a really positive way. The pepper's there, but it's more in the background. I get leather, but I get like older leather, not like I'm walking into a, like a new pair of shoes leather. It's more like, a closet with old leather coats in it. There's a touch of like a savory, like almost porcini mushroom thing going on, but it's really faint to me. And sometimes Grenache gives me a like a orange rind character. There's a touch of that to this, too. Same kind of dark fruit. There's like even on the nose, there's like a currant boysenberry thing that's there on the palate. Yeah, man, great. Really sage. Touch of black pepper. Once again, boysenberry, currant, blackberry. Definitely more of a dark fruit character than the Gigondas. This wine to me doesn't seem as acidic as the Gigondas does. They're about the same alcohol. It's a little earthier and like rounder at the same time. Like it's a more tannic and broader wine to me. So this is La Bastide Saint-Dominique. The winery itself is in a 16th century former church. I'll go back a little bit. So, the term, Chateauneuf du Pape, itself is a mouthful to say, but people usually remember it, which is always fun and kind of cool. So when we talk about Chateauneuf du Pape, the name means literally like new house of the Pope, right? So how did this all come about, right? Because this is one of the most famous types of French wine. And I'll go back to the main. When we look at the map, this is really a central area in the southern Rhone. It's this yellow area. Gosh, it's roughly around 8,000 acres, the total region. And a lot of this is there's a variety of soils here, but a lot of them are what we call galets or cailloux. Okay. There's also sandy and sandy clay and loam, sandy and clay soils too. But what Chateauneuf du Pape is famous for are these type of soils, which are called either galets or caillou. Caillou directly translates to pebble, but those are I don't call that a pebble, man. That's pretty big, right? And these are more they're big river stones because this whole area used to be once it was the river was much wider, and these are ancient river stones when the Rhone was a much higher river than it is right now. These are probably Grenache clusters here. We can see what, when we look at Chateauneuf du Pape, this is what's called a bush vine, or a gobelet. This is like a trained, it's not gobelet. This is like Jesus, I can't think of the term we use in French, but it's a bush vine, meaning like it's not a trained vine. They're set aside from each other. They're not on wires. This is pretty classic for old vine Grenache. Globally, Grenache is grown this way. It's not in these like guide wires anymore. And you can see these are some gnarly old vines. And we get very concentrated fruit from older vines. This wine that we're having, the L'Abbasside Saint-Dominique, the grapes from their estate are between 25 and 80 years old on average. And there's some places that are older. So, some of the grapes in this wine are going to be, upwards of 80 years old. Or, have been a plant physically for 80 years and probably look a lot like this guy. We did that. So it's called Chateauneuf du Pape because in the 14th century, Pope Clement V moved his court from Rome to Avignon for a bunch of very crazy, horrible political regions. And then there was what we would call anti-pope then in Italy, who was, claiming the papacy. So this is a time when, finally we move, a lot of the papacy kind of went back and forth between folks of French and Italian descent. So hence, then his successors, John the 22nd, made a construction in what's a ruined summer papal palace, okay, and planted vineyards around it. Hence Chateauneuf du Pape. And it was they were there for just under 70 years. And this was the area was in the hands of the papacy until 1791. But no one started calling this Chateauneuf du Pape until the 19th century. Okay, that's when it started to get its idea. Interestingly, when France started what's called the AOC, the Appellation Origine Contrôlée system, which is now the AOP. They did that about 7 years ago. It's all the same. It's just their regulation for wine regions and food in general, and regulated food from a delimited source are appellations in France. Chateauneuf du Pape was the first one, mostly because there was fraud being committed here due to there was a grapevine epidemic that destroyed a lot of the vineyards. People were selling fake wine from different sources. So they set these laws, and Chateauneuf du Pape was the first place that regulated, like, hey, you can only use grapes from this place and these grape varieties and this region, and they have to meet this criteria of minimum alcohol. You can't exceed certain yields. And they were the first place in France to do this, which is really unique. And the model became part of the INAO, which is the French national organization that regulates vineyards or viticulture and winemaking throughout France. And now there's hundreds of appellations, first starting with the most historic regions there. So Chateauneuf du Pape's the model. But this is interesting because Chateauneuf du Pape now has, people will say there's really 13 different grape varieties that you can use to make this wine. technically 18 because there's the red, white, and gray version, the red, white, and really pink version of Grenache, the red, white, and pink version of Picpoul, and then Clairette in both a white grape and like a pink grape. Oy vey. Yeah. Folks are trying to have this wine. And they say it's like licking rocks. We love this wine. One of our faves. Yeah, it does. It has like an intrinsic kind of dusty quality to it. It's really different from wines from California. There's no oak aging on this, you know. Stacy Knutsen's asking me, does the shape of the glass affect the taste of the wine? Oh man, the shape of the glass sure does affect the taste of the wine. We could talk. That's a whole, Stacy. That's a whole other thing, man. I can't even go there because I'm trying to keep this under. But yeah, shape of the glass definitely affects the taste of the wine. In fact, if I had my druthers, I probably should have used really bigger glasses for these. You'll definitely get, you know, like a bigger glass will help you take on like more subtle wines. Okay. So, great question. Is the embossed? I'm gonna use the F-bomb. Man, what the fuck's going on with the camera, dog? We don't know, man. We're high tech here at Ray's, but our camera is just being, man. Canon, what's up, dude? This Canon does not. Ray's is not going to endorse Canon, man. Yeah. Hey, Eric, I appreciate you, man. Eric does a really good job with all the IT stuff at Ray's, man. And I call him the kid, but it's out of admiration and appreciation and just real affinity towards the guy. So thanks, Eric. Even though we had technical difficulties, he makes it happen, man. And he's watching his little cooking shows on YouTube over here while I'm doing this, man. So, okay. So we got all these different grape varieties. Oh man, Kelly, yeah, you're right. I forgot about the bell, dude. We got all these permissible different grape varieties, but really the stars, once again, always Grenache, Mourvèdre, Syrah. We'll see Cinsault once in a while, and Cinsault is kind of on the lighter side for reds, as is Counoise. Counoise, that's fun to say, Counoise. Picpoul is mostly a white wine. And in Chateauneuf du Pape, we also make white wine. Terret Noir. Terret Noir, where are you? I never see you. This is an obscure little thing. Boubolinck is this nondescript white grape variety that tastes like paste. Clairette is almost as nondescript, but it's kind of like, it lives in like kind of Pinot Grigio land. It's kind of like moderately supple and has kind of basic stone fruit character to it. Vacquerez, which I'm probably killing the pronunciation. This is just totally obscure. I mean, there's less than 100 acres of this in France. Picardin, almost the same thing. Muscardin, same thing. Really, really minor players when you get below Counoise here, you know. And, you know, 7 of these are white grapes. Or sorry, 6 of them are white grapes. We talked about this. So I hit you with this, the La Bastide Saint-Dominique. We're dealing with 80% Grenache, 10% Syrah, 7% Mourvèdre, and a little bit of Cinsault. This wine is all destemmed. And there's a little typo here with these guys. They punch the cap, meaning they push the skins down into the juice and submerge those skins in the juice, kind of to get more extraction out of it, out of those skins to get a darker color. And when we say aging 18 months in vat before bottling, we're talking about like a concrete vat or probably stainless steel. We're explicitly avoiding oak with this. And don't think that all Chateauneuf du Pape producers avoid oak. This is a really big appellation. There's a lot of people doing different blends here. Some folks are using 100% new French oak. Some people are using Foudre, like old big oak. This L'Abbasside Saint-Dominique in their base wine here is just doing an unoaked style, which I find to be really appealing because I love the ripeness of the wine and the fruit to it. It's beautiful. There's tannin to this wine, but it's more of a velvety tannin. It's definitely thick and hedonistic without being over the top or abrasive, yet it's complex and intense at the same time. Love it. I find these wines to be pretty balanced, a little on the boozier side of things. Oh my God, Andrea, everybody, man, this is so flattering. I'm happy to see you, even just for a little bit. We are alone together. Canon makes great lenses and mediocre cameras. Nikon makes great cameras and mediocre lenses. Maybe we need a Nikon body and the Canon lens. There we go. What do you think, kid? He's just shrugging his shoulders. Maybe we should use that guy. No, we can't? Oh, okay. Man. I got mad audio gear too, man. So I mean we could make this really complicated. We're just happy to see you. Okay, we did that. Dawn Paso is producing some Pickpool wines. Yeah, in fact, I don't have any Paso Pickpool wines, but there's some white a Pickpool wine from a producer called Forlorn Hope here that they lees age. It's delicious. It's great, we did the Gallet Caillou thing. Oh wow. And now wow, okay, kind of talking about the vintages, like I said, that basic Cotes du Rhone that we had, the first wine was 17. Man, some of the beauty of that and like why I've got just such this great value $10 red wine is like, hey man, it was a good vintage down there. Sometimes, occasionally they can have floods, which is really weird and crazy. They had one in maybe 2000 or 01. They had a horrible, horrible flood there. And then in 2003, it was like record-breaking hot, horrible. Like a lot of grapes were raisinated. They had all kinds of issues with the heat too. Man, nice little wine, huh? So some folks are saying they like the Gigondas the best. What do others think? I think, sadly, we like the most expensive one the best. My kind of money's on the Gigondas too. And I don't know why. I'm going to go back to it. Man, yeah, I love like the kind of like raspberry / like wild strawberry thing I'm getting out of this Gigondas. I like love it. I love it. I love the pepper. These wines have some of the most like explicit fruit flavors of any wines in France because it's one of the warmest areas in France. Cotes du Rhone for me, but they all taste great. Sadly, we like the most expensive one the best. That Bob Mangan saying the tasting notes talked about it being crunchy. What does that mean for a wine? Hey, Bob, what wine had crunchy tasting notes? Oh, was it the Gigondas? It would make sense if it was the Gigondas. I'm going to wait for Bob to answer me. I'm going to have some water. Bob, I'm going to write you, man. Ah, I see you. Gotcha. Oh, the Bastide. Wow, I actually love that term, the crunchy term for wine. Um, I find it usually means like it's a it's acidity kind of with tannin too that gives it like an almost crisp taste that you don't really associate with a red wine. It's kind of like it makes you it makes your lips smack a little bit. But when a wine gets like too tannic or rich, it doesn't have that fresh popping kind of quality to it. Yeah, but the Bastide, I get like a snappy, crunchy thing out of both the Bastide and the Gigondas. Mm. The Bastide really opened up to me though, too, and it's starting to kind of drift into that like kind of Kirsty Chambordy land. Yeah, this is I gotta say this is like kind of bargain basement price for really good Chateauneuf de Pape, and the same thing with the Gigondas. Like these are very like we taste a lot of Kerplunky wines from this area. I think I'm gonna pat Ray's on the back a little bit. Like I don't want everybody to go home and think that you're gonna pull like Trader Joe's $15 Chateauneuf de Pape from home and you're gonna have like a complete fucking winner because it's probably garbage sauce. Chateauneuf de Pape's a big appellation and there's some garbage wine that comes from there for sure. That sucks, right? Um, this and Gigondas is smaller and I feel like has kind of a greater across the board thing going on. Why do you think it's doing that, kid? Is it set on a no? You want me to wrap it up? Oh yeah, the kid's telling me to wrap it up here, guys. All right, guys. All right. Well, I'm gonna give this another like 7, 8 minutes if you guys wanna ask me any questions. Once again, my guy Eric, he did a great job. All the wines are on the website, buddy. Eric put all the wines on the website. Please, I'll have them everything ready for you by Wednesday. Okay, everything. The $9 for this Côtes du Rhone, 18.99 for the 18.99 for the Gigondas, nummy. 29.99 for the Chateauneuf de Pape. Whatever orders you place, over the next few days, I'll have them ready to pick up on Wednesday. I'll confirm them all Wednesday morning. I'm doing this Wednesday because last week I thought I was gonna have everything on Tuesday, and one of my vendors like didn't literally like didn't ship me. She typed in the wrong amount of bottles by 10, and I almost had an angina right there. It was pretty rough stuff, because I don't want to let you people down. We want to get you your wine, and I want to, under promise and over deliver. Yeah, thanks. The freeze froze when you said faux sure. We've gotten some really great pictures of me just looking like a total, just a doofus, man. I'm just becoming this super eccentric 40-year-old balding guy. Oh man, Bob, man, the podcast, dude. Okay, hey man, Rob. Okay, Rob. All right, Rob. That's fair, dude. Rob or Robbie. We're gonna do Robbie. I think I want to start doing the podcast in January again. We'll see. It's gonna take Ori and I to do it, and we have these have been good times for Rays in the grand scheme of everything, but he and I both have a lot of responsibilities. Oh my god, yeah, it's intense. And my buddy Eric here is like he's now the IT guy. Where people are wearing a lot of hats. Um, what's the next class? Okay, so guys, I'm gonna take off for the rest of December because it's like Sodom and Gomorrah in this place meets like the bus depot, a train station, and the airport all at the same time. Like we got just it's crazy for the next 3 weeks. I will, however, I'll put some classes up for January. In the next 10 days, I'll have classes coming up, and we'll probably have like five or so things scheduled for January, including Scott doing a couple cocktails. I think we're going to do a non-alcoholic class. I'm working on getting a couple other, winemaker type folks and other som friends of mine to do this. Hopefully that show up on time. So I'm working on all that. We'll have a pretty great schedule for January and February. I'm working on it. Thanks so much. Whoa, boy. Kelly, wow, man, that's gruesome, dude. I miss the interaction of class peeps. Can we do Zoom? Lisa, I don't want to do Zoom. Hate that shit, man. If I could do like one Zoom thing where somebody knows how to mute themselves and there isn't fucking feedback and shit going on in the background, then I would do some Zoom. But all y'all out there don't know how to Zoom right, okay? That's why we do this YouTube live. And then I can record this and give it back to you without putting it in some Dropbox or something. Then this exists in perpetuity and somebody can still grab the kit of wines and do this at a later date. That's why I'm not doing Zoom. Kelly, I want to party with you. Kelly is pretty fun to party with. Thank you. No, thank you, Lisa. I will teach you. I know how to do Zoom, Lisa. It's not me, man. It's other people are the problem with Zoom. It's kind of like Christianity. It's not Jesus. Okay? He's what's good about it, man. It's the followers. That's a pretty easy religion joke. And for those of you that are into the Jesus, man, I mean, no offense by that too. Get off Nate's lawn. Yeah, get off my lawn with the Zoom. Don, I realize the presenter can mute people. I totally get this, guys. Now we're going down the Zoom rabbit hole. Okay, I'm going to wrap this up at 6:15 because I think Eric's got to eat here. And he's just, he can only handle so much of me in one room at one time. I'm open to Zoom, man. I'm not a demagogue over here. I believe you are a pro at getting people to Zoom correctly. Lisa, as soon as you and me can be in a room without a mask on together, then, for you to be my admin on this, we don't need to Zoom then. It's hard to go back to the Côtes du Rhône after having the other two. It sure is. That is the damn truth, isn't it? Oh man, thank you guys. This really, this spring, this is one of the joys in my life nowadays. I'm glad that we got doing this. Yeah, the Côtes du Rhône is just a simple wine compared to the other two. This is the beauty of the appellation system in France. And we got to remember that when we taste these wines and we see that wines from each place are different like this, but made in a very similar style, it's the beauty of the appellation system. Dude, I love this shit. Chris, I love you too, bro, man. I'm going to miss you for the next month. Dude, I promise it's going to be like 3 weeks, man. Yeah. So what about, oh shit, the bottle lettering. Okay. So let's remember this. So like we got like a crest on each of these. We have a joke here at Ray's called Check the Crest. So estate bottled wines from a variety of the appellations are allowed to use the crests that are predetermined by the appellation. So Gigondas has a crest. That's Gigondas. And I don't know what the Gigondas crest is about. There's some kind of horn like, you blow through to make noise. And then the Chateauneuf du Pape is the papal mitre and, the palace keys or something. That's what the crests are about. All right, guys. Thank you all so much. Sorry about the camera difficulties, but the audio is always good and hope things are sounding good. Remember, you can get all the wines. You can pick them up on Wednesday. $8.99 for the Côtes du Rhône. $18.99 for the Gigondas. That's a lot of wine for a little bit of money. The La Bastide Saint-Dominique Chateauneuf du Pape is $29.99. Yummy, yummy in your tummy. All right, I'll put up new classes within a week to 10 days. All right, guys, have a wonderful holiday season. Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, Christmas, all of it. Keep it real. Be safe. Mask up. Stay home if you can. Help us out. Let us know if I can do anything for you.